Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Talk with Hawk. Today we look at the Detroit Lions. I'm still not used to doing a Detroit Lions piece with the expectations of winning. What a turnaround Dan Campbell has made in the Motor City, and I don't see it stopping this year. They do have road bumps though. What are they? Let's check them out. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back into the office where we are looking at the Detroit Lions. This team did not fail in 2024. And very, very simply, what I mean by that is number one seed, best record in the NFC, and hands down the most dominant team week in and week out. What happens in the playoffs is things get exaggerated. You can cover up certain issues through the season a lot easier. But when it comes to the playoffs, every minute detail is expanded. It's put under the microscope. And for the Detroit Lions, simply put, the defensive injuries killed them. It shot down the Lion. I know, and I watched the playoff game, I said Jaden Daniels in a dome was going to be hard for anybody to control. Jaden Daniels is one of those players I don't want to play going forward. He has got a lot of Michael Vick abilities, but is a lot better throwing the ball, a lot better in the accuracy department. But he looks like Michael Vick when Vick came into the league. That's hard to beat. When you don't have 15 defensive players available, 15 players on IR, your defense is 11 men. You had 4 more out than you had originally on the field. It eventually catches up to you. It's not about not being a great team. It's not about them not deserving the hype, because they damn well deserve the hype. Absolutely. They are a very well-run team. Now, the road bumps are coming, and we'll get to those here in a second. But let's take a look at what they were in 2024. They were the second best offense in the NFL. Hands down, straight up. 409 yards a game is what they averaged. They did not just win, they beat you. They were the second best passing offense, 263 yards a game. A lot of it is off of play action. A lot of it has to do with catch and runs. A big portion was the resurgence of Jameson Williams running up the sideline. The deep ball was back in Detroit, and not in the form of Megatron just throwing the ball up, but specific routes that were getting him open. They were the sixth best rushing team in the league, 146 yards a game. And then in points per game, they averaged 33 points per game. They flat out beat you. Put up the whoop on each team. That was how dominant this Lions offense was. That's how great this Lions offense was. The injuries all happened on the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, Not the same. They were 20th in total defense, 342 yards a game. Didn't matter because their offense was so good. They controlled the game. They were 30th in the league against the pass. Bad against the pass. Bad. 244 yards average allowed per game through the air. Bad. But they were 5th against the run. Josh Paschal, Jeffrey McNeil, not a bad run defense. They averaged allowing 98 yards a game on the ground, 5th best in the NFL. And they only allowed 20 points per game. So on average, they were outscoring their opponents by 13 points per game. And you want to try to tell me they weren't worth the hype or that dominant? Yeah, right. They bullied teams into submission. Now, you would think with how bad the defense was, the turnover differential may be a lot closer than a team that would be so successful as the Lions. No, it wasn't bad. +9 in the turnover department. They had 16 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries, averaged over a takeaway a game. They only turned the ball over 12 times through the air and 3 times on the ground. +9. Once again, the formula to winning football: win the turnover battle. Eventually, it plays itself out. Dominant offense. Opportunistic defense, waiting for you to make that mistake because you're losing. Because you're losing the game, they're just waiting for you to trip up. So what does 2025 hold? 2024 looked really good. That's to the side. 2024 is done. Now what do? It's 2025. Well, as you can tell by the thumbnail here, 33 free agents. That's a lot. That is a lot of free agents. My thought is really simple. It's a good thing they got well over $70 million in cap space. How they're going to use that cap space will matter. Now, my fear, okay, so this is my fear. I don't think they will, but my fear, and the fear of most Lions fans, is probably that they would pull an Indianapolis Colts of last year. Re-sign a bunch of the same guys. I think you got to shake it up a little bit, move off of some guys, especially if you're worried about injuries. So let's take a look at some of the free agents that are going to be available. Carlton Davis, 28 years old, corner. He's a free agent. Marcus Davenport, Kevin Zeitler, which Zeitler will absolutely demand a 1-year contract somewhere. I think the Lions should re-sign him. I think he helps with the experience on that offensive line. I do not believe he is I don't think he's necessarily needs a crutch. I don't think you have to worry about having to support him too much. I would absolutely sign Zeitler back. John Kaminsky, Emmanuel Mosley, another corner. Levi, another defensive tackle. Dorsey, corner. Vildor, corner, which Vildor got beat a lot. He got beaten an awful lot. He was the guy that most teams attacked. So in my mind, I don't think he's going to be around. Pecco, the defensive tackle. Allen Robinson, the receiver. Turner, the linebacker. Dan Skipper. You gotta bring back Skip. You gotta bring back Skipper. He's not that expensive. Bring it back. Muhammad, the defensive end. O'Connor, the defensive end. So they've got some holes. And actually, there's 2 pages of free agents because they got 33, for gosh sakes. Quan Alexander's also a free agent. Derek Barnes, the linebacker. But no big issues on there. So, at the end of the day, they need defensive line and they need corner badly. Secondary is okay. They need defensive line and they need corner. So what do? Well, you know what? The way that everything is starting to play out. So today, so let's go over what happened today. I guess yesterday is actually when Saquon got the deal he did. I don't think he's creating a new benchmark for running backs. All the bozos out there, they're like, he's creating a new standard. Okay, he's creating a new standard if you rush for 2,000 yards and are possibly going to break the all-time regular season rushing record. Yeah, he's breaking that benchmark for you. Sure. If you're rushing for 1,200 yards a year, you're not getting paid Saquon Barkley money. Just stop it. Teams got wise. Remember when Deshaun got his big deal? Everybody was like, oh, this is going to change the quarterback market forever. Yeah, no. No. Owners like their money. Smart owners know where to put their money. That's simple. So at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley deserves all the money in the world. It is his team. Him and the offensive line, and Hurts is just along for the ride. That's simple. But then Max Crosby, he set up Myles Garrett is what he did. Max Crosby set up Myles Garrett for Myles' next payday. That was huge. That happened today, and my first thought was, Myles Garrett can't get that money from Cleveland. Cleveland is now absolutely forced to trade Garrett away. Because Garrett can absolutely demand that money. Absolutely demand the money. That's what happened. DK Metcalf requested a trade. If you remember the Seahawks thing, I mentioned this yesterday. I told you some of the cuts that would happen. I was right. Lockett got cut today. And then DK Metcalf requests a trade. This may actually be the best thing for the Seahawks. They are now going to open up their cap. They can easily get a second round. Easily get a second. Maybe get a first for DK Metcalf. Metcalf has a market. A.J. Brown has a big market. So if you're the Lions, you're looking around. You got all these big cap things happening. So what do you do? What do you do? I'll tell you. Here's what I believe the roadblocks are. The roadblocks are simply Ben Johnson is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. I want to outrageously credit Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles. They have traded in the last 2 days for Jonah Jackson from the Rams, and they traded today for Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs. They have their guards set up. Ben Johnson knows the offensive line matters. Aaron Glenn. Now remember, Ben Johnson also took some more Detroit assistants too. Aaron Glenn takes Detroit assistants with him to the Jets. He hasn't made the moves yet with the Jets. Not surprising, unfortunately. He hasn't made those types of moves yet, but that will be coming. Kelvin Shepard, who I remember watching at LSU, has been a coach in the league for a little while. I believe the defense will be just fine. I think Kelvin Shepard will bring in a little bit. Actually, I think he's going to bring a lot of the same defense. He may put a little bit more pressure on the secondary, which is why I think they need to go secondary here. The offensive coordinator, to me, is the question. That is going to be the big change. They've got to stay running the football. They got that offensive line. You have to. It's got to be Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, the offensive line, and then Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, basically the cherry on top. But I think that's going to be the bumps at the beginning of the year. Working into the new offense. Working into the new defense. it takes a good 6 weeks for everything to kind of gel in real game play. So that's the road bumps. Now you've got 33 free agents. Put on top of that 33 free agents. You've got basically $80 million in cap space. What are you going to do with it? So I'm going to give you a couple things. Out of the box ideas, I've got one. I'll give it to you here at the very end. I'm going to give you a couple lower end free agents I think they go after. Number one, I think they go after Dayo Adingbo from the Indianapolis Colts to come in and be a rush end on third down. Or a player like him. I believe they bring in a guy that can rush the passer with Aiden Hutchinson on third down. I believe they will draft defense. Look for a guy potentially like Matt Judon to get signed by the Lions as somebody who's experienced, who can kind of play the middle between a 34 and a 43 and kind of just play that tweener position. That's who I think they're going to go for as far as value is concerned. Now, the big question is, I would re-sign Carlton Davis. I absolutely would. Re-sign Carlton Davis and maybe make a trade to go get some corners from some other teams. Potentially go to Houston. They've got some young corners there as well. Or, and I don't think the Packers would do this, I really don't. If Jair Alexander gets cut, go get Jair. I don't think you can bring back Darius Slay. You may be able to. I think it'd work. James Bradbury definitely fits here. Maybe go after a guy like Jalen Ramsey. You've got $80 million in cap space. You've got holes to fill. You only have 6 picks in this draft, so it's not like you've got the capital or the leeway to be able to be soft in free agency. You've got to go after him, or you're going to be signing a bunch of undrafted rookies. That could be a play as well. Another play I think really could be here, and I said it earlier, and people called me crazy, but look at what the Chiefs just did with Joe Thuney. The Chiefs need an offensive line. We've said this. Humphreys is not good enough. Thuney is now gone, so now they've got to revamp the offensive line again. You guys called me crazy. Some of you called me crazy. I hinted at the beginning of all this that the Detroit Lions may trade one of their offensive linemen. Not necessarily to just cut cap, but to be able to strengthen a different part of the team. I think that's what you go after here if you're the Lions. Jonah Jackson got a 4th round pick. He's young. They've got years on his contract. 4th round pick. They gave up a 5th in 2026 for the Kansas City Chiefs for Thuney. Now he's a lot older. And I think the age difference is where that really comes into play. A lot older. They're paying for a veteran, but they're paying further down. They didn't take cap from this year. I believe the Seahawks released Draymond Jones. He would fit with the Lions. Dio would fit with the Lions. Judon would fit with the Lions. I would re-sign Carlton Davis and then go after another corner. You're not going to have to pay a bunch of money or draft capital for a corner. But then I would trade an offensive, obviously not Penei Sewell, and probably not Ragnow. Like I already said, I would re-sign Zeitler for a 1-year deal. Absolutely would. I would re-sign Kevin in a heartbeat on a 1-year deal. So with that being said, trade an offensive lineman. There's a lot of teams that need offensive linemen. You could trade him to the Raiders, get a 4th-round pick. You're going to need the ability, because this cap situation does become interesting the further down the line you go. You've got a basically 3-year window now. You lost your offensive coordinator. You lost your defensive coordinator. You lost multiple assistants. You got to retool the staff and then retool the team. I think they take a step back, not because they're not as good, but because it's going to take time to gel. It's going to take time to mesh. It's that simple. I don't think they're going to win 16 games. I think they can win 13. I think early on in the year, the first 6 weeks, they could go 4-2. And then they'll finish out the rest of the year going 9-2 and finish 13-4. I think that could be a very feasible thing. They are a force to be reckoned with. Dan Campbell is the coach that he is. His 4th down stuff can be dangerous, and I know people are watching it. I get it. But the reality is, this team is built too well. The offense is built too well. They're going to go for value, and an organization now, still not used to saying this, but an organization like the Lions, I trust that staff, that organization, to bring in players that can play their role. They need a secondary. They definitely need help on the line. They're losing 5 linemen in free agency right now. They need help. But I think they're going to be able to be smart, get role players, and they'll probably still end up with $15 to $20 million in cap left at the end of this offseason. They can make a splash. They could make a play for Myles Garrett. It's going to strap them for cap 1,000%. They could. I wouldn't if I was them. I really wouldn't, because that secondary needs a lot of help. Go get secondary help. So, I love this team. Absolutely love this team. I can't wait to see what they do. We are sitting, it is Wednesday night now, and we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got 4 days. 4 more days to live through before Monday happens, and I told you guys trades were going to be wild. The Bears are already being aggressive. We said it. I said it in the snapshot. If they're aggressive and they go get offensive line, that team can win. The Vikings, I think, are going to take a step back. J.J. McCarthy, even if he's good, I think is going to struggle because I don't trust that offensive line as much. Justin Jefferson is always going to have some injuries. I don't think they can outdo every team with J.J. McCarthy year number 1. It's okay. The Bears, though, are getting primed and ready to really make a move. They're being aggressive, which you can't fault. If it doesn't work, oh well. But the Bears are being aggressive. And we'll see what happens. So, what do we got? 3 left, right? Yep, we got the Commanders tomorrow night, the Ravens on Friday, and then Saturday night will be the Philadelphia Eagles. Closing out this Snapshot series. It's almost done, and I ain't going to lie. I love it. I've made it. We've been able to do it outside of the OBS screw-up and the system and the files and everything else that went haywire with my computer. We did it. An entire series, the Snapshot series, will be completed before the new league year opens. I'm ecstatic about it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the shorter podcasts, not 45, 55 hour long podcasts, keeping it below a half hour, mostly around the 20 to 25 minute mark. I know I rambled a lot today because I love the Lions, and this is one that I really can get into. So thank you guys so much for listening. It is Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. So finish out the week strong. Make it the best rest of the week that you can. Please subscribe, like the podcast, and as always, I deeply appreciate it. Until tomorrow when we look at the Commanders. For Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk. I'm out. Have a great rest of your evening.